Hi everyone, welcome back to i-TUTOR IAS Academy Tamil Nadu History NCERT series. In today's session, we will discuss lesson 27, that is First World War. Okay, so all of you may know about First World War in world history. So here we discuss around all about First World War. The First World War is the time period is 1914 to 1980. It's also known as the Great War. Was a global conflict that primarily pitted the Allied powers, that is led by Britain, France, Russia, Italy, and later the United States also in First World War. And it again is the Central Powers. These are the Allied powers, and Central Powers are Germany, Austria, and Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. So, two powers are there in world history. World War One. Yeah, that is Allied powers and Central powers. Okay, and the spark that is triggered by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in Sarajevo on 28 June 1914 by a Serbian nationalist. So that is the starting point of the First World War, and outbreak happened in a chain reaction of alliances led by declaration of war across Europe in August 1914. Then the Western Front and the technological shift had happened, and US entry also in the last of World War around 1970, and driven by Germany's unrestricted submarine warfare and the Zimmermann telegram. And the fighting ceased with the armistice on 11 November 1980. The Treaty of Versailles 1919. The Treaty of Versailles in 1919 formally ended the war, imposing heavy reparation and territorial losses on Germany. So this is the base of First World War, and human caused geopolitical changes, new nations, and the prelude to World War Two. Okay, World War Two also happened after World War One, and these are the impact and legacy of First World War. Okay, so further we will discuss in this unit. And first of all, colonialism. In this extension of a national sovereignty over another territory beyond its borders, colonizers generally dominate the resources, labor, and market of the colonial territory. They also impose socio-cultural, religious, and linguistic aspect on the conquered population. And European colonialism began in the 15th century with the age of discovery. This was led by Portuguese and Spanish explorations of the Americas and the coast of Africa, the Middle East, India, and East Asia. And by 17th century, England, France, and Holland successfully established their own overseas empire in direct competition with each other, and those of Spain and Portugal. And Spain and Portugal were weakened after the loss of their New World colonies, but Britain, France, and Holland turned their attention to the Old World. So, particularly South Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, where colonies were established. And the industrialization of 19th century led to what has been termed the era of new imperialism, and the fight among European countries to control and establish new colonies led to the First World War. Okay, so industrialization and all we discussed in previous units, so lessons, and you just refer that video from our YouTube. And there are different type of colonies, that is settler colonies, such as the original 13th state of the United States of America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Argentina arose from the immigration of people from a mother country. This led to the displacement of the indigenous people, and colonies of dependencies came into existence due to the conquest by foreign countries. Example in this category include the British India, Dutch Indonesia, French Indochina, and the Japanese colonial empire. And plantation colonies such as Barbados, Saint Dominguez, and Jamaica, where the white colonizers import black slaves who rapidly began to outnumber their owners, led to minority rule similar to a dependency. Okay, so this is about colonialism. And imperialism. In imperialism is a policy of extending control or authority over colonized countries. So that is imperialism. The term is used to describe the policy of a nation's dominance over a distant lands. The age of imperialism usually referred to the old imperialism period starting from 1860, when major European states started colonizing the other continents, And the term imperialism was initially coined in the mid 1500 to reflect the policies of countries such as Britain and France, who expanded into Africa and America. And also, the imperialism refers to the highest stage of capitalism, which made it necessary to find new markets and resources. And this theory of necessary expansion of capitalism outside the boundaries of nation state was shared by Lenin and Rosa Luxemburg. Okay, so that's about imperialism. And economic market in industrial revolution created the need among the European countries to find new markets for their industrial goods. Similarly, they had to find raw materials for their industries, and this new dual need pushed the European countries to compete with each other to establish their political control over Asia, Africa and Latin America. So that is about economic market. Improvement in communication, advancement in science and technology led to improvement in transport and communication. Steamship, railroads, roadways were improved. This helped imperialism to have a firm hold over the conquered territories. And rise of extreme nationalism. The late 19th century was a period of intense nationalism, and main nations developed myth of superiority over other people, and each country wanted to have colonies to add to its prestige and power. And writers and speakers in England, France and Germany opened institutions to promote the idea of imperialism, and European countries took great pride in calling their territories as empires. And the civilizing mission, in the mind of many European imperialists, expansion was very noble. They considered it a way of bringing civilization to the backward people of the world. And explorers and adventurers as well as missionaries helped in spreading imperialism. Okay, that's a civilizing mission. And U.S. imperialism, so it is different. And the United States has enjoyed its status as a superpower, and beginning at the end of the World War II, the US largely took over the United Kingdom a certain role of influence in the Middle East. And several Middle Eastern nations such as Egypt, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Lebanon, and Israel have all been directly or otherwise substantially influenced by US policy. So that is all about. And First World War, we will discuss causes. And what are the causes? First of all, system of alliances. And there were many causes for the World War One, and the most important causes was system of secret alliances. Before 1914, Europe was divided into two camps. It was Germany which created the division in Europe politics before World War One, and in order to isolate France, Germany entered to the alliance with Austria, and Bismarck formed the Three Emperors League by making alliance with Russia. Later, Germany did not care for Russia, and hence Russia left. And but Germany continued its alliance with Austria alone, and this was known as dual alliance. And after Italy joined in this alliance, it became a triple alliance. Okay, so system of alliances, and in the meantime, Russia began to lean towards France. In 1894, there came Franco-Russian alliance against Austro-German alliance. It was at this time England followed a policy of splendid isolation. She also felt that she was all alone, and first she wanted to join with Germany. When this became a failure, she entered into an alliance with Japan in 1902, and in 1904 she made alliance with France, and in 1907 Russia joined this alliance. This had resulted in triple entity, and thus Europe was divided into two camps. The secret nature of this alliance brought about the War of 1914, that is World War One. And next cause is militarism. So what is militarism? And the countries in Europe had been increasing their armies and navies. This was the main reason for universal fear, hatred, and suspicion among the countries of Europe. In Europe, England and Germany were superior in navy, and there were competition between these two countries in naval armament. For every ship built by Germany, two ships were built by England. Okay. And narrow nationalism was also a cause of the war. Narrow nationalism. The love of the country demanded the hatred of another. For instance, love of Germany demanded the hatred of France. Likewise, the French people hated the German people. In estate Europe, narrow nationalism played a great role for World War One. And the Serbian hated Austria-Hungary. And desire of the people of France to get back Alsace-Lorraine was also a cause for the outbreak of First World War. And it was Bismarck who had taken away Alsace-Lorraine from France and annexed them with Germany in 1871. And the result was that there grew enmities between these two countries. And it was this reason that forced Germany to take steps to isolate France by making alliance with the other countries. And William II, the Emperor of Germany, himself was a cause for the First World War. He wanted to make Germany a strong power. He was not prepared to make any compromise in international affairs. He was mistaken in assessing Great Britain's strength, and it was a misunderstanding of British character by William II that was responsible for the war. And Prussian spirit by Germany was also a cause for war. The Prussians were taught that war was illegal in the world. War was the national industry of Prussia. The younger generation of Germany was indoctrinated with such a philosophy of war. And public opinion. So, the position of public opinion by the newspapers was also a cause. Often, the newspapers tried to inflame nationalist feeling by misrepresenting the situation in other countries. And ambassadors and cabinet ministers admitted the senseless attitude of the leading newspapers in their own countries. And the desire of Italy to recover the Trentino and the area around the port of Trieste was also a cause for war. And the Italians considered that this area were inhabited by Italians, and but they were still part and parcel of Austria Hungary, and they cried for the redemption of these territories. And Italy also entered into a competition with Austria to control the Adriatic Sea, as Austria was not prepared to put up with the competition, and there arose bitterness in the relations of these two countries. And the Eastern question was also a factor for the war. So, Eastern question, and this complicated the situation in the Balkans, and the misrule of Turkey resulted in discontentment, and there was a rivalry between Greece, Serbia and Bulgaria for the control of Macedonia, which had a mixed population. And on the occasion of Bosnian crisis, Russia supported Serbia, and pan-Slavism also created complications. And the question of Bosnia Herzegovina in the Balkan was also similar to the problem of Alsace-Lorraine. And Bosnia and Herzegovina were given to Austria-Hungary by the Congress of Berlin in 1878. This was strongly opposed by Serbia, and a strong agitation was started in Serbia to separate these provinces from Austria-Hungary and unite them with Serbia. This created rivalry between Serbia and Austria-Hungary. This became very keen after 1909. Serbia also received moral support from her big brother Russia. That is, the Serbs and Russian belong to Slav race. And what are the immediate causes? So, the immediate causes was the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand, who was heir to the Austrian throne, and Archduke Francis Ferdinand and his wife were assassinated by Serbian in the Bosnian capital Sarajevo when they paid a visit the city on 20th June 1914. And the news of this murder shocked many countries, and Austria-Hungary was already sick of Serbia. So these are the immediate causes of World War One, and she decided to take advantage of a new situation to crush her. And the murder of their crown prince and his wife resulted in an ultimatum being sent to Serbia for immediate complaints of certain terms. And Serbia's reply did not pacify Austria-Hungary. Hence, Austria-Hungary, backed by Germany, declared war on Serbia. and Russia mobilizes her force in favor of Serbia. So this is the immediate cause, and here is one picture for Archduke Ferdinand. Okay, so that is his assassination is one of the reason. And causes of the war. During the war, Germany and her allies were called Central Powers, and England and her alliance were called Allied Powers. So two powers are there in the war: Central Powers and Allied Powers. And Germany entered the war to defend Austria. And shortly, all the powers in the hostile camp were automatically drawn into the war, and Turkey and uh, Bulgaria joined the war on the side of Germany. And Italy left the Triple Alliance and joined the opposite camp with the idea of recovering Italian territories under the Austrian control. And England joined the war against Germany, and there was bitter fighting on the French soil. And the Battle of Verdun, okay, with Verdun. The Battle of Verdun decided the fortune of the war in favor of the Allies. Germany started submarine war in a large scale, and all the law relating to naval warfare were thrown out. And in Russia, fought on the side of the Allied up to 1970. And the Bolshevik regime wanted peace with Germany, and thus the Brest-Litovsk Treaty was signed between Russia and Germany. And the Lusitania ship was drawn by a German submarine, and consequently many Americans lost their lives, and this resulted in the declaration of war against Germany by the USA. And in the spite of the effort, Germany could not stand, and ultimately she surrendered in November 1990. And the German Emperor Kaiser William lost all hope of winning the war, and he abdicated his throne and fled to Holland. And the German army signed the armistice agreement on November 11, 1918 to mark their surrender to the Allies. And the Allies of Germany had earlier suffered defeat at the hand of the Allied powers. And what are the results of this war? So this is the picture of Kaiser William. Okay, so here. And result of the war is the Great War took a heavy toll of lives. It is estimated that about 10 million lives were lost and 20 million people have been wounded. People all over the world suffered untold miseries. There was a large scale damage to civil property. And it is estimated that the direct cost of the war reached just over $200 billion, and the indirect cost more than $150 billion. And a large variety of deadly weapons such as incendiary bomb and grenades and poison gases were used. Tanks, submarines, and aircrafts were also used. And the war wrought its havoc on the economics of the participating countries. And it may be remembered that about 25 nations had joined the Allies at the time of the outbreak of war. The victory felt that the devastating effect of the war even before the cessations. And all these nations were burdened with the national debt, and the world economy was in shambles. And Germany was forced to sign the Treaty of Versailles on 20th June 1919. It was a dictated peace, and Germany had by then become even too weak to protest. She lost everything, and Germany and her allies suffered more since they had to pay heavy sums to the victorious allies as reparation debts. And Austria Hungary signed the Treaty of Saint Germain. Hungary signed the Treaty of Trianon with the Allies in 1920. And Bulgaria had accepted the Treaty of Neutrality in 1919. Turkey, which sided with Germany during the war, signed the Treaty of Sevres in CVEVRES, Treaty of Sevres in 1920. So this is the results of the World War One. Okay. So this is all about World War One. We discussed result and causes, immediate causes, and cause of war. All about World War One we discussed. And in between any doubts, you can contact us anytime. And for more NCERT series, you just do like, share, and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.